welcome to Hour 3 of the Todd Starnes radio show. Great to have you with us today as we broadcast from our Southern Command, Memphis, Tennessee, from our studios at our flagship station, KWAM. Folks, it is great to have you with us today. A very special hello to all of our brand new affiliates across the great state of Nevada, listening to us on the Nevada Talk Network. Also, brand new stations joining us from the great state of Michigan. And folks, we have some more exciting news coming your way. Next week, we'll tell you about more stations that will be joining us from the great state of Texas. So all that to say, we're having a great time here, folks. A lot going on. Go ahead and write down our telephone number, toll-free number, 844-747-8868. Again, that is a toll-free number, 844-747-8868. Now, of course, the big story of the day, the Supreme Court ruling against the Trump administration in their efforts to end President Obama's DACA program. I want to go right now to the Liberty University newsmaker line. Very honored to have a good friend of this program, a great American patriot himself, Congressman Mark Green. Congressman, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Todd, for having me on. It's a real honor to be on your show.
You know, Congressman, a lot of frustration on several levels with this decision. First, let's just talk about the ruling itself. I mean, this is President Obama doing something that under the United States Constitution had no authority to do, and yet it seems to me the Chief Justice here weighed in on what amounts to be basically a clerical or administrative error.
Yeah, it's pretty frustrating when the Supreme Court basically usurps the power of the legislative branch, and that's essentially what's happening. And it really began back in the 50s with the Warren Court, this idea of a living constitution that could be, interpreted by what the justices think the Constitution says. And when you do that, when you empower them that way, they basically become a super legislative branch. They can basically say that any law or any power that the legislative branch is pretty much undone by the Supreme Court. And here, Congress has the power to write these laws, and only Congress. And the Supreme Court does not have the ability to empower the executive branch to come up with a law like this.
And yet, Congressman, that's exactly what happened here, which leads to my other concern, being the decision not just by Chief Justice Roberts today, but a few days ago you had Neil Gorsuch siding against the White House, the president, on this issue of gender and deciding that sex now is defined as gender identity. A lot of people out there cast their vote for this president because of his promise to put strict constitutionalists on the highest court in the land, and it appears that was not the case.
Yeah, these guys have got to, it's disappointing that they would, again, use their discretion and not interpret the Constitution as it's written. It was a legal document, and just as any legal document today is intended to be, it's about what is in the words. You can't second guess what was meant. I mean, that would be as if you and I entered into a sales transaction of a piece of property and we had a disagreement. The court would go back to, or is supposed to go back to, exactly what it says in the document and not try to guess at what our intents were, especially when it's hundreds of years removed. This whole notion that the court has the ability to do this is a fallacy, regardless of how you feel on the particular issue. This is bigger. It's a breach of the founding construction of our government with separation of powers. It's very frustrating and unbelievable.
I think what really concerns me, Congressman, going back to 2017, I raised some concerns on this radio program about Gorsuch, and we were promptly shot down not just by the administration, but by religious liberty leaders who are close to the administration. And we were all told that we had nothing to worry about. Gorsuch was the real deal. This was someone who had the backing of the Vice President, Mike Pence. And here we are at the day of decision, we now know that Gorsuch may in fact have been a very bad pick. And I asked Tony Perkins from Family Research Council a very direct question the other day on this show, Congressman. I said, Tony, do we have a conservative majority on the Supreme Court? And he said, he doesn't think so, not anymore.
Well, it's very concerning, and I agree with your question of Tony, and I trust his opinion, and I agree with that opinion. Very clearly, in these instances, these individuals have chosen to go with that sort of liberal interpretation that there's a living document out there, and that's tragic. Hopefully the president will get another pick, and he'll pick Amy Barrett, who I think would be phenomenal. But what it really speaks to is just how pervasive this idea that the justice can just assume for a second what the Constitution should have said. And that is so pervasive that these individuals that we thought were pretty conservative guys and were going to interpret the Constitution maybe like Scalia would in a strict constitutionalist, that hadn't happened. And so it's very concerning, makes you wonder about the rest of our judiciary.
All right. Well, Congressman, look, we're going to have to leave it there. We appreciate you coming onto the program, weighing in on the breaking news of the day. Congressman Mark Green. Congressman, thank you.
Thanks, Todd.